Alright, welcome back everybody. Today I'm going to be finishing up the body work here on this bumper, and if you already can't tell, there's no license plate. Went ahead with the license plate delete, but right now we got to finish up everything else and get it all prepped out so we can actually put some primer on this and be done with it. I can't wait. Then we can mock it up on the car and I can actually put a rear tail light in and I can finish up this plastic repair that is definitely needed to be done. So with that said, stay tuned. First things first, today I'm going to use my 8-inch hogger here. I've got this from 80 grit on there, and basically generally just going to use it to just flatten this whole surface down. That's what's great about this. It'll bring all the high spots down to the low and everything will be uniform, and as you can see, it already doing the work and it's not even on yet. So you can kind of imagine how much product this thing throws. There's a reason why we call them a hogger. Had to open the doors because I was making way too much dust. Okay, so it's all broken down. Everything's nice and flat. You can see I'm down to the level of the poly underneath. Everything's nice and flat and decked. Now I just got to get in here. I'm not able to get a machine in here, obviously. I'm going to have to do it by hand. This flat surface here, I can probably machine that flat, but in here I'm going to have to use a lot of my hand and sanding to get that done. But in case you're wondering, this is a line sander. It's also known as a boring sander, inline sander, surfboard. There's a lot of terms for it, rather, but I tell you what, that machine definitely helps me a lot. Okay, so let's skip ahead. I'm a little winded right now, so I'm going to kind of make this quick. So what I did was I laid down some icing, and you can see it here in the background. Just some Pro Glaze. I don't normally work with this stuff, but it seems to be working really well. This right here is what us auto body guys call a cheese grater. You see these, this right here. This saves you a lot of time. As you can see right here, it is straight, so you'll basically just cheese grate it all nice and straight while it's still soft before it actually hardens up completely. And then you can see which parts are actually your low parts here, your low sections and whatnot, but we actually know that all of this is nice and straight. This feels really nice, and it's actually starting to look really nice. It looks like a nice solid bumper, and I know this stuff will flex, which is great. And I sanded majority of the fiberglass off. I got a nice thin rigid layer underneath this, which is definitely going to help with the distribution and whatnot of any kind of flexing that goes on with this bumper. So hopefully none of that happens, but yeah, I guess it's just time to sand this thing out.
Is a fantasy. Policies have risen up and overcome the brave. Greatness dies, unsung and lost, invisible to history.
Alright, so this is the piece that I cut off. Got everything ready now for priming, but I just want to give you guys a real quick scenario. As you can see, I've been kind of playing with this and whatnot, but to give you a general idea of what I mean by flexibility and not having a failure. This is not Bondo. This is not some hard filler that isn't going to flex. So you can get a general idea of how much I can work with this, and there's no splitting, there's no cracking, you know what I'm saying? So that general repair, you know, you can see all my mesh work on the back side and everything, you know. And if you haven't seen when I did this, go back, check my channel out, and go back, watch the video and see what exactly I just cut off. So yeah, with that said, I mean, you got to really put this stuff through some rigid stuff. And again, this is something that we glued on there, and then it's even got fiberglass and some body filler on there, or some actual polyester icing, I should say, no body filler. So that is why I don't use body filler. That's why I don't use Bondo, is because it can go through an accident, and you got to really mess with it before it will crack. So do it right. Alright, well, I'm all ready for prime time. Everything is nice and flat. I've brought everything to a 180 grit sand finish, and for the sheer fact that that is primable. You cannot prime with an 80 grit. I mean, I've heard old school guys do it. I don't like it just because of the shrinkage that you get from the primer. It's going to shrink into those 80 grit sand scratches. It's just too deep, it's too coarse. So I tend to step it back and bring it to a 180 finish so that I don't have to work so hard when it comes time to sanding out the primer. Now, bringing it to a 180 finish as it is now, I can prime it, and then I can go straight to a 320 or 400 grit sandpaper and paint directly, versus if I had finished this in 80 grit and then primed it, I would then have to sand it all out in 180 and then prime it again in order to achieve that 320, 400 paintable finish. So I need to clean up this mess. I've made a big mess. There's shit all over the place, and you don't necessarily need a huge clean environment for doing priming. You're going to sand it out and get it ready for paint and whatnot, and that's the prepping that you really only need to worry about. So just kind of, you know, clean up your tools, sweep the floor. You can prime it. You're fine with that. You don't need to necessarily wet the floors and all that stuff. It doesn't need to be dust free. It doesn't matter if there's a little bit of dust in there. You're going to sand it smooth anyways. I really like it. It looks so good. No more license plate. Oh my goodness. Man, I did a good job. Now I want to see it on the car. Alright, well, here we go. Now you guys remember, from the side, this is what it looks like. That's how you can tell that it is still an OEM bumper. But as we pan around, oh man, that is so sexy. That looks so good. Wow. Not to toot my own horn, but I'd say I did a pretty good job making this a solid polyurethane bumper and retaining the flexibility of it, which is great. It's very lightweight, and as you saw from earlier, it will flex. I don't have to worry about any of this body work cracking up and making me look bad. Pretty nice, right? So now I just got to finish up these two hangers here in the rear. That way I can level out these rear tips here and get them exactly perfect. And again, you know, the bumper is just hanging there. There's no hardware even holding it. I've just got it sitting on the shelf itself, so I'll plumb that up, get that right, because I've still got to come over here. We'll pan over here to the corner, and I've still got to finish this plastic repair. I got to kind of sink in a little hardware here in order to even get it to remotely sit where it's got to go, because I can't even really even place this where it needs to be and still have hardware in here because of what he did on the backside and the poor repair. but at least for now, I know that my job has been taken care of, and I'm very, very happy with how it turned out. So now all I got to do is finish up some measurements, and I can start welding in the rear section here and get all this panned in. Once I get all this solid, I can start finishing up the bracing, and then I can start tapping this. That way this this exhaust hanger can actually be unbolted actually as well. I'm going to put two bolts here that will hold that. That way it can be disconnected from the brace or disconnected from the exhaust system itself, whatever he so chooses to do, or mechanic that is in there at that time, just to make it easier for him. Basically, you don't want to, weld everything all together. You want to be able to take this stuff apart only for general repair and repair purposes. So if you are going to build a custom car, make sure that if someone else has to get in there, that it doesn't look like a cob job and it looks professional. It looks as OEM as possible. I mean, obviously, nobody uses box steel, but it's as strong as I can get it in there. And I want it to be nice and rigid. Not only that, I wanted the flat surface so I could tap and bung it and get it to where it is a threaded surface. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and end this upload here. I hope you guys enjoyed how the bumper has come out. I don't want to talk your head off too much about the future plans of this car. If you guys can, hit that subscribe button, tune in, hit that notifications bell so that you can see when I have the next uploads, and follow the progress of this car. It's definitely going to be a one-of-a-kind WRX, and I promise you that there is so much more custom stuff coming along. There's going to be a lot of one-off parts that I'm going to continue to make for this car, and for the sheer reason that I've stated in an upload before, I'm tired of the cookie cutter builds. I don't want the general consensus that this car looks like everything else out there, and for that sheer reason, we're going to go a little over and beyond. So hence the center exhaust, that custom bumper. We're going to go with that custom diffuser underneath there. We're really going to channel it correct and just make it as functional as possible. So it's not just looking badass, it's also functional. Functionality is everything, so especially in a car. You don't want to be driving down the road and all of a sudden that thing parachutes off your car. Yeah, so with that said, I'm Bill Schneider. This is Rumble Garage. I work on only cars with the stars. Subaru only. Have a good day.